Hello, friends. Today's story is one you won't forget. When a woman IPS officer goes undercover as a widow inside a women's prison, she uncovers a horrifying truth. What she finds there goes far beyond any normal duty. It shakes the foundation of the entire prison system. What she does next? It stuns the nation. So don't stop watching midway, because incomplete knowledge is never the same as complete truth. Let's begin. It was almost 10 p.m. in Delhi. Inside a luxurious government bungalow, IPS officer Bhavna Rathore sat hunched over her desk, bathed in the dim blue glow of her computer screen. A cold silence filled the room. This was no ordinary night. Her eyes remained fixed on a heavy file lying in front of her. Its label, Confidential Report on Mismanagement of Delhi Women's Prison. She took a deep breath and opened the file. What she read made her heart race. Inspector Ranjit Yadav, the officer in charge of the prison, had been accused of sexually assaulting female inmates, brutally beating them, and mentally torturing them. 2 blurry photographs and a transcript of an anonymous audio recording were attached. This wasn't just a case. This was a cry for help. Government investigations could take months. But the muffled screams of the women locked inside those walls, they couldn't wait. That night, Bhavna made a decision. She would go inside the prison herself, not as an officer, not in uniform, but as Gauri, a poor 35-year-old widow accused of murdering her husband, a fake identity, fake trial, fake medical reports, all carefully designed. Only 4 officers knew the truth. 3 days later, a police jeep rolled through the massive gates of the women's prison. Inside, a frail-looking woman with dried lips, messy hair, and broken wrists sat quietly. That woman was IPS Bhavna Rathore, disguised as Gauri. Her first night was a shock to her soul. The food was rotten. The guards were cruel. The entire prison echoed with the sound of women crying. Every cell seemed to hide a story of pain. The next day, a woman approached her. "You new here, sister? Don't speak much. If the inspector notices you, you're done." Her name was Rubina. She had been imprisoned for 4 years. No trial, no charges. "Why?" Bhavna asked. Rubina's eyes filled with tears. "That night, he called me, then beat me, then starved me." Bhavna clenched her fists but kept her face calm. She had a small hidden camera stitched inside her scarf. Every moment, every word, it was all being recorded. Her driver, Satish, was outside the prison with backup plans in place. On the 3rd night, Inspector Ranjit entered, a tall, thick man with arrogance in his eyes. "New girl?" he smirked. Bhavna, as Gauri, lowered her head. "Yes, Gauri," she whispered. He grabbed her chin and forced her to look up. "Fresh face, I like it." She trembled, but inside her, a fire burned. Later, 2 guards arrived in the dead of night. "Number 114, come out. Sir wants to see you." They led her to a special wing, the plain barracks. This was Inspector Ranjit's private office. Pictures, liquor bottles, leather chairs. It looked more like a lounge than a jail. "Welcome, my queen," he said, sitting back in his chair. "Your name is now whatever I choose." She stayed silent. The hidden camera kept rolling. When he tried to touch her, she took a step back. He laughed. "Scared? Don't worry. You'll get used to it." Bhavna was taken to another room, cleaner but still under surveillance. At 2 a.m., Rubina snuck in. "Gauri, Be careful. He breaks everyone in here." Bhavna's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was strong. "Not anymore. Not this time." Over the next 2 nights, Inspector Ranjit tried every method: gifts, threats, food, sweet words. Bhavna stayed quiet, always recording. Meanwhile, Satish, disguised as a lawyer, stood outside the prison every day, recording from afar, monitoring movement, and keeping contact with senior officials. On the 4th night, Ranjit warned her, "Tonight is the final test. Either submit or disappear." Bhavna was ready. Strapped to her back was a high-tech signaling device. One press, and a silent alert would reach Satish. As Ranjit entered her room that night, drunk and dangerous, Bhavna quietly pressed the button. Outside, Satish received the signal. He sprang into action. With him were senior officials, female commission officers, and journalists. They rushed to the prison gates. Inside, Bhavna faced Ranjit again. But this time, she wasn't just Gauri, she was fire. When Ranjit tried to touch her again, she whispered, "Should I serve you, sir, or expose your secrets first?" He laughed. "What secrets?" She looked him in the eye. "You sell women. You bring drugs into the prison. You silence those who resist. Rubina, Shabnam, the others, all victims." He shouted, "Who will believe you, old woman?" Bhavna calmly replied, "They already do. You're live, right now." He froze. The door burst open. Female officers, media, police commissioner. "Inspector Ranjit Yadav, you are under arrest." His face turned pale. The guards who once followed him now stood silently. Bhavna removed her scarf, revealing her identity. "I am IPS officer, Bhavna Rathore." What had just occurred was not just the fall of a predator, it was the beginning of a revolution. News of Ranjit Yadav's arrest sent shockwaves across the country. Inside the prison, chaos broke out. Files started coming to light, missing inmate records, false registers, drug smuggling documents. A full-blown investigation began. And then, something was discovered that turned the case on its head. A secret diary. In the diary, there was a chilling entry. Per master's orders, Rubina has been transferred. A new woman, Bhavna, has arrived as VIP. Break her. Bhavna's eyes burned with determination. She was no longer just an undercover officer. She had become the voice of every woman who had been silenced. The next day, a closed-door emergency meeting was held with members of the National Women's Commission and the Special Crime Branch. A name emerged from the shadows: Raghav Tripathi. 3-time elected legislator, respected political figure, and the real mastermind behind the abuse in the prison. He was the man who had protected Ranjit Yadav, controlled the trafficking, and operated the entire system from behind the scenes. Bhavna knew Ranjit was only a pawn. The real monster was Raghav. But exposing a sitting legislator from the ruling party? That wasn't easy. It would trigger legal chaos, political war, media frenzy. So, she planned carefully. Now, she had the support of the state's Special Task Force, STF. Her evidence was strong: camera footage, witness testimonies, confidential files. The only thing she needed now was timing. And then, her phone rang. A trembling female voice whispered from the other end, "Madam, my name is Shabnam. I'm one of the victims. I know where Raghav Tripathi is hiding, but they'll kill me if I speak." Bhavna immediately sprang into action. No official vehicle, no backup, just a disguise and a deep resolve. Shabnam led her to an old farmhouse on the outskirts of the city. From the outside, it looked abandoned. But once inside, Bhavna realized this wasn't a house. It was a torture den. Hidden cameras, armed guards, secret rooms. This was where female prisoners and young girls were being auctioned to foreign guests. Bhavna's blood ran cold. Meanwhile, Raghav had started suspecting someone was onto him. The moment he heard Bhavna's name, he exploded in rage. She's an IPS officer? Kill her. Make it look like an accident. I don't care how. Just get rid of her. The threat was real. Soon after, a delivery arrived at Bhavna's office. Inside, a burned sari and a handwritten note. You've lit a fire. That fire will burn you too. You're not a cop. You're our enemy now. Bhavna read it calmly. She didn't flinch. Her hands didn't shake. She looked at her team. The fire has only just begun. That very night, Bhavna got intel. Raghav was hosting a special party at the farmhouse. 5 girls were being transported from the prison to be paraded in front of foreign guests. Bhavna didn't hesitate. She declared, Operation Black Night. At 9 p.m., she and her STF team left in convoy. But on the way, disaster struck. A speeding truck rammed into their vehicle on a bridge. Driver Satish died on the spot. Bhavna was critically injured. But it wasn't an accident. It was a hit job. During interrogation, the truck driver confessed, I was ordered to stop the IPS madam, at any cost. Bhavna lay in the hospital, covered in bandages, but her voice was still strong. Call my team. Operation continues, even if I have to go on a stretcher. Midnight. The STF surrounded the farmhouse. As soon as the secret signal was received, they stormed in. Gunshots, screams, chaos. Raghav Tripathi tried to escape through the back door. He was captured. 5 terrified girls were rescued, including Rubina, who had been declared dead by the prison staff weeks ago. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered the next morning. They chanted, Long live IPS Bhavna! Hang the rapists! In court, Bhavna stood tall and declared, Honorable Judge, when we elect leaders like Raghav and give them power over our systems, we don't create laws, we create monsters. I don't just want justice under law, I want justice for humanity. Based on overwhelming evidence and witness testimony, Raghav Tripathi was sentenced to life imprisonment. Charges: rape, human trafficking, conspiracy to murder, corruption. Bhavna was awarded the Sarah Medal by the Ministry of Home Affairs, but she didn't attend the ceremony. Instead, she visited the rehabilitation center, where Rubina, Shabnam, and the others were healing. They ran to her crying, Madam, you made us feel human again. Bhavna held them close. No one will silence you ever again. Not anymore. Months passed after Raghav Tripathi's conviction, but for IPS Bhavna Rathore, the fight was far from over. She was offered a prestigious post, chairperson of the National Women's Safety Commission, a position of power, a title with influence. But she refused. My place is not behind a desk, she said. My field is where injustice still breathes, where women still cry in silence. That's where I belong. One evening, a young female journalist visited her with a final question. Madam, aren't you afraid of these powerful people? these criminals in high positions? Bhavna smiled gently. If a widow can walk into a prison full of monsters and come out with their confessions, then every woman can change the system. And with that smile, a new dawn of justice began. But the story didn't end there. Bhavna kept a close watch on other prisons across the country. With the help of a newly formed task force, she launched a statewide inspection drive. And what they found? Terrifying. In several remote facilities, women were still being mistreated. Hidden cells, forged records, private rooms used by powerful men. But now the system had a new enemy, truth. And truth had a new face, Bhavna Rathore. She worked quietly, fearlessly. She began training young female IPS officers in undercover operations, inspiring them with one mantra: power is not in uniform, it's in courage. One of her trainees, a young officer named Aisha, asked her one night, "Ma'am, do you regret it? Going undercover? Getting injured? Losing Satish?" Bhavna paused. Her voice cracked slightly. "Every night I see Satish in my dreams, and every morning I see the faces of women who smile freely because of what we did. That's not regret. That's purpose." She had turned her pain into a mission. In a remote village in Uttar Pradesh, a young girl named Lalita, once a victim of trafficking, stood on a school stage to give a speech. "I want to become like Madam Bhavna. I want to protect girls who don't have anyone. I want to fight and never be afraid again." Her speech went viral. Across social media, people shared Bhavna's story under the hashtag Justice Like Bhavna. Eventually, the government passed a new law inspired by her case, the Bhavna Bill, a federal mandate to establish surveillance and real-time audit in every women's correctional facility with emergency access to external women's commissions. She never sought fame, but the system that once tried to silence her now carried her name in every reform. Years later, an elderly Bhavna was invited to speak at a university. As she stood before the next generation of law officers, she looked around the room, not with pride, but with hope. "Don't ever let silence become your comfort zone," she said. "When you hear a cry, let it move you. When you see injustice, stand, even if you're standing alone." The hall erupted in applause. Outside the auditorium, on the university wall, a quote had been engraved. "She didn't fight for herself. She fought for every woman who was ever told to stay quiet." And that's how IPS Bhavna Rathore became more than just a name. She became a symbol of justice, a movement, and a reminder that one woman's courage can change a nation. Friends, if this story moved you, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments what part of Bhavna's journey inspired you most. Until next time, stay brave and stay true.